Hello and welcome to We All We Got. I'm Derek Johnson, and we're broadcasting live from the Blake Annex Studio in Albany, New York. And this week, we want to start out the conversation by putting a highlight on a few people that put it on for the city. And first, I would like to shout out to Mayor Hanna for putting on a high school basketball showcase where he had the underclassmen playing against each other, and it was a very exciting game. And also, he had the graduating seniors playing against each other, which was also an exciting game. So it was a positive event. And coming off our last conversation when they were saying that it's nothing to do in Albany, it sure seems like things are popping up. But on Saturday, we had Alice Robinson and her fashion show that was at the Albany Boathouse, and that was the place to be. Was reminiscent of old Albany. You've seen a lot of faces that you hadn't seen in a while. So I was excited to get out at both events, and I just wanted to highlight both of them for giving the people something to do on Friday and Saturday. And so I hope everybody had a good week from last episode to this episode. And today, myself and my brother Aaron Dare, we're going to be talking about our experiences as high school athletes playing basketball for Albany High. So I just wanted to jump into the conversation. Or first, I wanted to let Aaron say hello and warm up the crowd.
Hello, thanks for the introduction, DJ. Glad to be here with you again. And you know, I'm always happy to reminisce about the good old days. So it's good topic, good conversation. But I think that I'm really excited to talk about things that are sort of overlooked in the whole entertainment aspect of high school basketball, and that's things that affect play and outcome. So looking forward to having that conversation.
Yes. So earlier in the week, there's been some conversation throughout the community in regards to some comments that were made, and as Green Tech High School boys basketball were recognized by the Common Council, and so and recognizing the young men for how they handle experiences that I'm familiar with. I made a statement that when I played ball for Albany High, we were used to playing 5 against 7, and a lot of times I saw the young men, they were facing 5 against 8, and so I was recognizing them for being able to work through that, and ultimately being the state champions, that's a big deal. And so I just, a lot of times when you go to the game today and you watch the game, you can connect with it and you can see areas where you struggled, and you can see areas where kids were more successful in the areas that you struggled. And so that was a point that I connected with. And, my attempt was to recognize them because a lot of the skills that they're working on today, that they're learning in this game, is going to matriculate into job readiness later on down the line. And I was telling them they're going to be critical thinkers. They're going to be able to be part of teams. They're going to be leaders. They're going to be what is needed for the direction that they want to go in life. And so to hear some of the pushback that I heard, I took it upon myself at the and miscellaneous to make sure I clarified, that they understood when I said 5 versus 7 was when I was 16 or 17 years old. And a lot of times in these games, I don't think that people even care to think what is going on in the minds of the young men and the young women that are playing the game. And a lot of times kids get demotivated by their experiences in high school basketball. And so, and some kids end up giving up. And that's a hard thing to watch because people have so much love for the game, and to see the energy killed, just to watch a kid's level go from where they only think about basketball all day to not being interested in the sport anymore. And that's frustrating for me to see, and it happens over and over again. And anytime that you try to have conversations, if you know a referee on a personal level, it's like you get shut down when you try to share what you see out there. So I really felt that it was a space that we needed to make sure our feelings were really heard, and that's why, I think it led us to having this type of conversation. And as I said, and we all we got. We trying to bring those conversations that we have one on one in the homes, at the barbershops, anywhere that you comfortable, and you open it up and you connecting on issues, and you not only voicing your concerns about it, but you also trying to fix it at the same time. So, and sometimes you have to shake that bush to get people's attention, to let them know enough is enough. And I think that that's where we are, as people who love the game, people who respect the game, people who appreciate the game, people who have benefited from the game, and look forward to seeing this game grow, like we have with women's basketball.
But part of the problem that we run into, I believe, is that we have a lack of understanding of the parameters of the game. Like, many people want to treat basketball, football, the whole sports industry as if it is not a microcosm of our larger society. And when people talk about racism and all of those other things, racism is called systemic for a reason. It permeates everything. You look at just the whole concept of a black player. We're always looked at as being athletic, talented, gifted. A white player will be hardworking, smart, hard nosed, those kind of things. And it sets up a dynamic where one is greater, one is better, one is more cerebral, one is more physical. And it creates, it's very hard for people to stop drawing those distinctions. And because you put that, zebra uniform on, it doesn't make you impartial and people or objective. People, in order to become objective, you can't rely on the things that you were always fed, because that in itself was an objective. Your experiences are different than mine. So, and your living situations, all of those things that help factor into your decision making. In order to be really objective, you have to look at things and be able to have a conversation outside of your perspective and be able to hear different points of view and understand different points of view in order to be objective. You can't live on one side, do everything on one side, and then suddenly say, because I put a whistle in my mouth and a black and white shirt on, now I'm objective. I go back to our youth, and I'm going to just take you through a couple of scenarios. It's not high school basketball, but it'll give you a feel for it. Georgetown. Georgetown was a team that Patrick Ewing went 124 and 23 over his tenure at Georgetown. He went to 3 championship games, 82, 84, and 85, and ended up winning 1 championship. But was the most dominant big man during that period, more so than Akeem and everybody else, because he took his team to that championship 3 times. Ask John Thompson, if they feel that they were treated equitably by the referees. And the answer is no, because they were viewed as thugs. Going forward, the Fab Five, because they shaved their heads, they wore baggy shorts, they wore black socks, they were viewed as thugs, not people. Jalen Rose is one of the most intelligent people there is. Chris Webber came from, and Juwan Howard were scholars, and they came from 2-parent homes, but they were viewed as thugs. And that translated into calls they received and didn't receive. I still remember how people hated them because of the look. And I remember the big Duke game when they played Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner. and how it became a symbolism of black versus white, similar to when we played Shenendehowa. So people talk about, this objectivity, and objectivity doesn't come from just anywhere. It's something that you really have to ground. And I just want to take you to one other example, and that's Allen Iverson. There was a time when Allen Iverson was fined $25,000 because of the way he talked to Steve Javie. Another referee didn't like that, or a bunch of referees didn't like that he wasn't suspended. So they decided when he played for Denver, they were going to call travel or palming the ball every time he touched the ball. That was determined before the game even started. Where's the objectivity in that? And so people can tell me that, there's objectivity, we do this, we do that. But first of all, you're bringing a set of thinking, a set of experiences to a situation that society supports. And people will say, no, society doesn't support that. Well, I was looking a couple of things up today in preparation for today's meeting. And one of the things that I learned in looking at stuff was how much society supports racism. And you look at it, and right after the NIL deals were announced, they decided to limit the amount of money players could make in basketball and football. Not baseball, not soccer, but basketball and football, which are predominantly black or sports that are dominated by black players. And even when you look at it, predominantly white institutions that compose the Power Five, the NCAA's own figures suggest that black students comprise only 5.7% of the population in 2019 and 2020. But the black athletes in the Power Five make up 55.9% of men's basketball players and 55.7% of men's football players. And so you targeted the largest percentage, the NCAA did. You targeted the largest percentage where black athletes are. And these are the same people that hire the referees and everything else. So when you tell me that there's no racism, I know better than that. I know racism permeates everything and it drips its way down. So, when we have this kind of a conversation, we've got to look at the larger society. I know I keep saying that on everything we talk about, but there is nothing that just exists local. It happens and is condoned somewhere else first. And it says it's okay because it's okay to do that there. It's okay to do that here. And we put those thoughts on our young people. We look at our young people and we say, look at that kid. He's naturally this. He's naturally that. Can't be like you went through it. You were one of the smartest players I knew. When we came to timeouts, we looked at you in terms of what to do. There were some of us that just played basketball. You went through and you could analyze it and see what was happening as it was happening or before it was happening. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. You never got credit for that. You know what I mean? But those are the kind of things that we're talking about.
And so when you made your points about Patrick Ewing, it just made me think about when you played ball at Albany High for Coach Pierce. It wasn't no zones, and you really had to work at your craft because
Or you get exposed.
you get exposed. Number one, you get exposed, but number two, you get in foul trouble.
Yeah.
And so, they were looking to call fouls on us, and that's how that was the feeling that I felt when you experience it consistently, and so you think about how it puts it hampers the ability. When you are gifted, physically gifted, it's like it's a curse against you. And the word that you use, objectivity, that can eliminate it when you only looking at it one way. Where oh, that's not a foul. He's big. He should be able to handle that. And so I just keep on thinking about the difference when I go and watch basketball somewhere else, the flow of the game, because that's the part that where the essence of the game is really at, is when, the referee is out there but he's not out there. They're controlling the game, but they're not interfering with the game.
Well, Dia, it took me to go to college, right, before I saw a ref stop a game and tell the home team, I'm going to assess you with a technical foul unless we can get some things with this crowd under control. I remember going into CBA and 17 years old, um, they're holding up signs saying Napa now hiring, aimed at us. You know, talking about you work for my father, all of those things. You know, very racial kind of an index, and you got the brothers that head the school throwing candy into the crowd, you know, to hype them up on that line of thinking.
Yeah.
Referees never said a word, never did anything to disquiet or calm the situation. But when I got to college, I didn't. That's when I realized that they could actually do that, and there was a responsibility for doing that. Like they'll tell us in a game to not dunk before warm ups or anything like that because they don't want the crowd to start oohing and ahhing, getting involved in the game. But yet you let these activities happen, you know, that help to, you know, gel that racial animus towards a predominantly black team. I'll never forget walking into CBA and seeing that Napa now hiring sign and them waving it at us like that was what our careers were going to be.
Yeah, that's the, unfortunate experiences that stick out. And, I automatically gonna think about the Cabbage Patch Doll at Glens Falls.
That didn't exist, but we all saw it.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
And, you know, you it's a beautiful game, but it's moments that stain the game. And it's sad when things happen and then and when we try to bring it to light, the first thing they say is, "Oh, that didn't happen."
Yeah.
And that's how I feel, overall about the issues with the refs is that if there is a need for a serious, multiple way, because coaches have feelings, the players, the parents, and the refs should be able to voice their. We should be able to have a conversation that leads to a better understanding coming from all directions.
Because otherwise, what we're telling kids is that there's two sets of rules. We're telling kids from more advantaged schools and advantaged backgrounds that you can do this, you can say these things, you can treat people this way, and it's okay. And you're telling kids from more challenging backgrounds that this is what you're going to be up against, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Not that it's okay that they treat you like this, and we're not going to do anything to intervene to level that playing field. As much time, as we've had to be able to level a playing field, there's still a lot of effort that's been lacking to do that. So we can talk about objectivity all we want, but the truth is we know there's no objectivity, no true objectivity. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a need to call timeouts and challenge plays and go back to video and everything else. You and I were at a basketball game this year where one of the more talented players in this area came down the middle and a kid stuck his foot out to trip him. And everybody in the gym saw that. And none of the officials saw it. Now this kid's whole career could have been over. You know what I mean? On that one act. And he didn't get a warning, he didn't get a foul call, anything. But you saw he purposely stuck his leg out. There was no accident to it. There was no miscommunication. It was an intentional act.
Yes. And it's not going to be an issue until somebody does something like that, and then it's a critical injury. Someone can't play again. We shouldn't have to wait for a tragedy to happen for discussion to open up. For the same focus, the same energy that is placed on the talent. The same energy. Like if you calling the game tight on both ends, we got to make adjustments as players because it's consistent. But if it's not happening like that, I don't think that it's right that officials have that much authority and control over. You don't make the call and then you get upset at people's reaction to the call. That part leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm hoping that the attention that this issue has received thus far will warrant that conversation to start, and I believe that it's really needed, and I'm hoping that the next time I go to any type of game, that I don't leave with the same feelings that I have been leaving with the last 15 or 20 years of watching the same stuff happen. That we're perfect. I can remember growing up, the stigma that only white guys could be quarterback. Black guys weren't smart enough to be a quarterback, and for the situation I was in, where you have a sport that 90% of the referees are white, and for them to tell me that I don't understand what it means or what it takes to be a referee, and
or even a coach. I mean, we ran into that like growing up. You and I know that the headiest position on a football field was the quarterback. And we were just talking about this, we happened to both grow up with somebody who was a pitcher, a quarterback, a point guard,
yes,
one of the best athletes that, I always say Brian Zink and Keith were like the best athletes that I knew because they played multiple sports and they dominated multiple sports well.
yes,
But Keith was one of those people who threw all of that. Todd Holloway, they threw all of those perceptions, against the wall because it didn't make sense. And then now you look at how people are beginning to evolve. The game is beginning to evolve, and evolve, and you're starting to see how intelligent people are. Mm-hmm. But it's almost shocking to some people that we have minds and can think like that, and are able to break down a game. And then you've got in the college game, the NBA game, there are still positions that, are looked at as there'll never be a black coach in that position. Like very hard, very difficult to understand why, but they won't be in consideration for jobs, especially if you're a big man. Like Pat Ewing hit it on the head. It's very hard and Kareem is one of the brightest men there ever was, but Kareem will never get a head coaching job in basketball. Pat Ewing will never get a head coaching job in basketball. Just one of those, in NBA basketball, I should say. It's just one of those things. And you don't understand it because Kareem has authored over 11 books. He's a teacher, he's a scholar, most cerebral person you'll ever meet, but he'll never coach basketball.
And they always invite him in to work with the team, to talk with the big man, and I never understood that.
Symbolic gestures are easy.
But, you remember it said NBA basketball is fantastic. It's a big business, and it's a big business, and they know how to run that business the way they want to, and ownership has a lot of control, and it's just a beautiful thing that people can get paid in the manner that they're getting paid. I think it's a beautiful thing that the NIL exists, and players are able to.
But you got so many people upset about the NIL right now. They feel like, oh, this is a bad thing because these players can go anywhere they want to, just like coaches can. They can demand these kind of incomes just like coaches can. And the problem is you really put shackles around these players in terms of, I remember being at college broke, living off meal money, that little $15, $25, depending on if it was an away or home game. That was the money you had to live
Western
on.
Union.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You living on the kindness and the generosity of others.
Yes.
What people were willing to send you and stuff like that, all because you had a scholarship. But the university's making money off you hand and foot.
Left and right.
You know what I mean? And so it's unfair to then say, well, these kids shouldn't have that ability. They should, especially in an entrepreneurial state and country. You have that right. You should be able to make, money off your gifts and talents that you worked hard to hone.
And as I said, it's this world is changing. They expect us to accept the change that they support, but they want to handcuff the change that is going to be positive for us. And like I said, I'm excited for every young man and young woman that I hear is getting paid handsomely to do the thing that they love. And the only thing that I encourage them to do is to, channel into the love that, brought them before the money came.
Yeah.
To stick with that love for the game and understand where you're trying to go with the game, because the more focused you are, the bigger that check can get. And as we see the direction that these TV contracts and things like that are going, it's not going to be long before we have a player that's getting $500 million, for 5 years.
Well, and I want to see all our kids go pro. If it's not the NBA, I want to see them become doctors, engineers, lawyers, be able to succeed in professional fields. I reached a point where by my freshman year, after my freshman year, I lost my love for the game, and basketball became a tool. It became how I get through college, how I get my degree and get on to grad school. But I wasn't going to allow, the university to use me. I was going to use the university. You know what I mean? But, I had a lot of the love I had beaten out of me, you know what I mean, by the time I got to college and stuff like that. So it became a tool, and it became a chess game in terms of who's going to walk away with more, this program or me.
And that's the goal. I don't. You remember Miss McDonald from Albany
Yeah,
High?
yeah.
She gave us all. I know she said it to me. You got to spend as much time in the library as you do in the gym. And that's the mindset that I went to college with, and it had me focused on the things that I needed to be focused on. And so,
And I remember Sam Walton from 11 Grandview Terrace telling me the same thing. Don't be calling this house asking for nothing if you ain't, doing what you're supposed to be doing in the classroom and in school. My dad didn't play that at all. You know what I mean? And when I told him I wanted to leave playing Division I ball and go to Division II because the expectation or the requirements were less, and I'd be able to get into my studies more and be able to experience more of the city and the things that I wanted to do in libraries, museums, and stuff like that. First question was, who paying for school? I'm like, still full scholarship. He's like, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, party on.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, the beauty of us being able to talk about college, we didn't get to the point about us playing against each other in college.
That was different.
But the beauty of it is that I just would love to be able to have these conversations that are needed, and I think that these conversations will lead to relief for both sides of the positions, and allow this game to flow, and also for our kids to be able to flourish, because a lot of times our kids have talents and they have to leave this area for them to shine, and I want
And be respected.
I want to see that up close. I want to see equity.
Well, you look at a kid like Jordan King, and CBA kid, played locally, all of those things. He had to go to Richmond in order to be really respected for the talent that he is. That's a problem. And then you look at local schools here; they don't recruit local talent like they should. And I think you know this about me. I don't like to talk basketball. I don't like to talk sports because I feel like that's what they give us to talk about. When I say they, I mean the larger society. Those are the things that they expect us to talk about. I like to talk about the more uncomfortable conversations that force people to think about what they're doing and how we can improve education, employment, job opportunities, all those things. But the topic that we're talking about now is a mirror reflection of all of those things, how we're denied all of those things, and how the general will that allows that denial permeates other sectors of our society. We don't like to admit that. We think that because we go to a ball game, that all of a sudden those thoughts, those actions, they don't exist anymore, but they really do.
And it's crazy because when you were speaking earlier, I was just thinking about how before you get on the field or the court, this world we already see is the law is one way for us and it's one way against us. When you see loans, when you see when you start to really look at your community, you start understanding redlining and the different rates for insurance for businesses and homeowners insurance, and you just start understanding why is why. And so when you think about sports, that's supposed to be a place where you could be free from all of that stuff, and you find out it's in there as well. It's ingrained in
because there's
there.
money to be made in that. And then when you take a young person outside of Albany and they get to a Richmond and they're starting to see affluent black families and who own businesses, who own middle class neighborhoods where mom and dad are still together, it's almost shocking. I remember I went to visit my brother in Maryland and I couldn't believe what Maryland was like. You know what I mean? And then I went to Hempstead at a time when Hempstead was still a black middle class community outside of the city.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it opens your eyes to possibilities, things that we can have. And I know a lot of people feel like I always intertwine race with things, but I'm a product of this society. I just don't. I just choose not to close my eyes and ignore things. I'm gonna call it like I see it because I see other people try to move in the dark and do things. Well, I'm gonna call it to the light because the truth is, we come up in a society where we're constantly told what we can't do, what we shouldn't be. But then you get outside of that community and you start seeing all of the other possibilities.
Did you go to school 19?
No, I went to Toast.
You went to Toast.
It was 24 when I went there,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yes. Well, school 19 was probably the first time that I ever really felt racism, and it was many different parts of it because school 19 had a school within the school.
Yeah.
They had the AT wing.
I was invited to that from the time I was in fourth grade. I just
Yeah.
chose not to go till eighth grade.
So they had, they were a school within a school for real. And, you couldn't touch those kids, like they were treated like prima donnas. And
Well, D, Albany High was like that, the third floor. I didn't see you all day. You know what I'm saying? I was always up on the third floor. So it was me, Davia Gaddy, Suzanne Lowndes.
yes.
You know what I'm saying?
In a class that it was probably 12 people in or 13 people and one
Exactly.
black or two blacks at the most.
Me, Davia, and Suzanne.
Yeah.
Just to be honest, that's how it was.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But some of my oldest, most lasting relationships came from that as well. Like Greg Sakaris, I love Greg to death.
Yes.
Cornbread, and
You'll
I
never hear me say that name.
I got to
You
meet.
just nod. I'll never say that name.
I got to meet him through that. You know what I mean? Through that experience, because we went through eighth grade all the way through 12th grade. We weren't together in college, but we were together, me, him, and Jetty in grad school.
Yes. Yes. And like I said, I remember walking by, looking in your classroom, and it looked totally different. And as an educator today, you see, I can identify with kids that are going to go on that track because it's different tracks.
Yeah.
We all get to the same place, but we take different routes. And so I can remember somebody saying their future is so bright they're gonna need shades.
Yeah, I remember that kid saying that too.
Yes, yes. So basketball, and it was a pleasure being able to have this conversation with you because basketball has taken us on so many different journeys, whether it be us as players or when we ran the Midnight Basketball League.
30-year anniversary.
Listen, we found out on a moment's notice, like 2 or 3 weeks before the program was going to start.
Yeah, we had to get it up and going.
And we split up. We had 100 kids. You had 50 on one team, and I had 50 on another team.
Yeah.
And we figured out how to put ourselves in a situation where we can have a draft. We had the draft.
All-Star game.
And we ultimately won the whole thing.
And they sent us everywhere. We started out in Buffalo
Yeah.
and had to come down to the city and win it at Riverbank State Park. So
Yes.
I remember all those days as well. And I call them kids, but they're close to our age. You know what I mean? And see the different, like I see Royal Young all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Royal makes me every time I see him, he makes me smile because Royal got one of the first jobs that we got through the Midnight Basketball League, and he'll retire from that job soon. So that always makes me smile and feel good.
And we're gonna try to announce upcoming events, but something that we're working on right now is having some type of celebration for 30 years ago. The New York State Midnight Basketball League operated in Albany, and we had some great times.
Launched by our mentor Lloyd Stewart.
Yes, oh, definitely Lloyd, Raheem.
Oh, the brother Raheem.
You got to say Youssef.
Yeah.
When you think about, if you say Buffalo, you got to say Corey Anderson because he hit that shot.
Man, the shot. What about the dunk?
Yeah. What about the police escort out of the building?
We definitely needed that one that night.
Yes, yes.
And
So,
then all I'm gonna say is my man Phil. Phil was like a little brother to me.
yes.
Thank God we were able to rescue him off 42nd Street
Yeah,
that one time.
yeah, yeah.
Tell that story
That's
out
a
loud.
that's a whole, that's why you got to do bed checks. You go somewhere with kids, you got to do bed checks. But like I said, it's always a pleasure to talk about our experiences on the court and off the court. And I want to thank you for bringing the stats because they always say you have no data, but you came with the data,
Yeah.
you came prepared, and we are appreciative of that.
I just wish I just wish the data wasn't so poignant and that sharp end being pointed at us.
Well, this is what leads to change, and we are people that got in all of the different games that we are involved in to be game changers.
I'm gonna say this: the large before we go, because I think this is important to remember. The largest employer of patched officials in the nation is the NCAA. Can we agree on that?
I would like to say yes.
The NCAA instituted a rule a few years back where, in order to be an agent, they were saying you had to have a college degree. Do you remember what they called that rule? The Rich Paul rule.
Rich Paul.
Because they were upset. The NCAA
Yes.
was upset that Rich Paul had as many clients as he did, as big tickets as he did, and they tried to lock him out of becoming an agent. So when we talk about institutional racism, now that was defeated a week after it was introduced, but it was the NCAA's intention to lock the most successful black agent. He was the most successful agent there was at that time. He was bigger than David Falk. You know what I mean? They tried to lock him out of the industry. And that is the largest employer of patched officials. And if they're saying it's okay to commit acts like that, blatant racism, how do you tell me that doesn't trickle down?
Well, we got, and one of the things that we want to do is we want to break off some of these strangleholds that have been present in our lives that we had just to live with. As he said earlier, sometimes you got to leave Albany to find out that there is better places to be. And what we want to do is we want to show them that same type of opportunity is in Albany, and we're going to make it that way. So at the end of the day, I will always close it and saying we love you. We all we got.
All we got.